So you came to BYU for a couple years, went back to New York, from New York originally, right? What bureau or borough?
We're
I say
capital.
bureau.
Yeah, you can say it. We'll say it however you want.
Like the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
What borough?
Yeah, what borough?
We're from the Capital District in Westchester County, so
Okay.
both of those.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it's both are home to me. Both I have a lot of family in. We're born and raised diehard East Coasters.
Very
Like
cool.
my mom will never leave New York. Like never. She comes here when she's made to. But I love Utah. It's kind of addictive. The weather is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a great hidden treasure.
Yeah, not so hidden anymore,
No.
though, thanks to you.
I know.
You're actually
I
a
know.
big part of that.
I know. I keep saying, I'm like, don't come here. We're full. But it really is getting too full here. Like, I mean, they can't expand the highway any further. It's like done.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So because we're going to talk a lot about, you're like a celebrity now. How crazy is that?
It's crazy because I still think of myself more as like a businesswoman.
That's how I met you. I met
Yes.
you as a businesswoman.
As a
and
businesswoman.
we were working together on a variety of different things, including like your tequila brand you were telling me about before
Yeah.
you even launched it and all this type of stuff. And so, yeah, I knew you as that. And then like one day you were like, hey, I'm going to do Real Housewives.
You were the first person I talked to when it got announced. Clint, you were the first person.
Was I really?
Yes, you were. It was like amazing. But literally, it got announced, and the first person I talked to was you.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I can pull up my phone records and prove it.
That's
Like,
actually
yeah,
so cool.
It is.
So how did that come about?
You know that I have an entertainment marketing company in addition
Yeah.
to the alcohol brands we own. And a long time ago, so when Henry was almost 2, he's 11 now, so 9 years ago, I work in entertainment. So I do experiential events for huge networks like HBO, CNN, all the Time Warner properties, and others. Like I've done stuff for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. And so what happened is I was doing some stuff and everyone kept saying, you need to have a TV show. And I'm like, okay, like that's going to happen. Like we're in Utah. You know,
Yeah.
I would think if I were in LA or New York, it would be easier. But then one of my friends is like, my friend's a producer and you need to meet her. So this is like long time ago. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, I'll talk to her. Never met up with her, like kept crossing paths. Like she was in LA, I'd be in LA, and my friend would text and say, you're both in LA, you guys need to meet up.
Yeah.
And it just never happened. You know, like I think we both blew each other off. Like neither one of us were like committed to like knowing each other, but our friend thought it would be a great idea. So while that's happening, I have another friend that's like, hey, you need to be doing something on a network. And I'm like, okay, this is so funny. Everyone keeps saying that to me. So that ends up turning into a pilot. And this is in 2011. So meanwhile, like who I end up doing Housewives with initially, like we keep blowing each other off. So we did this huge pilot. We had our restaurant in Park City. You know, we have our alcohol brands. We have all this stuff going on. And it just didn't feel right. Like just the way it was transpiring. We did it. We filmed it. We made the pilot. It was funded, I believe, by Turner Networks. And I'm friends with
Okay.
Dave Levy, who was the president of Turner Networks at the time for certain properties, because there's a lot of different properties under there. And so they were going to pick it up. And then I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. And like you can feel things when they're going to happen and
Yeah.
when they're meant to happen. And it didn't feel right. And then fast forward to 2018, you and I are working together on this huge event for Sundance.
Yeah.
And I remember I was getting my hair blown out. I had talked to you that day too, because Todd connected us.
Yeah.
And then the next call I get, it's like, hey, we really need to talk to you. We want to work with you and do a TV show with you. And so I'm like, okay, this is hilarious. Literally, I'm like, turn off the hair dryer. Like, we're talking for like 40 minutes. And then I'm like, we should do something. Like, it's feeling different. And literally, even probably 6 months before, I was with John taking a walk by our house. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to have a TV show this year. I don't know why.
Wow.
And then another network called me and was like, can we do something with you? So I'm like, this is meant to be, because everything's like happening. I think when things are meant to be, you just feel it and you
Yeah.
attract it, and it attracts you, and it's like the perfect storm. So, and it is a storm being on Housewives.
Well, it's incredible. It's an insane, like,
Yeah.
it must have changed your life overnight.
You know, it's so weird because we end up bringing the show here, and it's like going to be a show about women in business, and it turns into Housewives. I kind of had a feeling it was going to do that, but like it did. So, you know, we launched during COVID, And we wrapped season 1, and that was on a Friday. By Monday, the whole country was in we had the earthquake, and then we were in lockdown. So we didn't really get to feel the effects of the show, the platform, the network. We're under a huge umbrella. It's an NBC property. So we didn't get to really feel that. And I think because I've been in entertainment for so long, I could be walking down Rodeo, and Brad Slater, who's Dwayne Johnson's agent, would be like, "Hey, Lisa Barlow."
Yeah.
So it felt like I was already connected, knew a lot of people, but it just changes everything. I don't go out without makeup on anymore. And I'm a New Yorker, so I get dressed up to leave the house. But I'm I used to just get dressed up, but not spend a lot of time. But now I'm you have to glam because everyone's like, "Can I get a picture with you?"
Yeah.
And so it's different. We were just on a trip as a family, and I'm oh my gosh, everyone's staring at us. And you're in your bathing suits. We're in the Bahamas. And I'm oh my gosh. And people are "Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm my hair's wet and I'm in a bikini. No. But it's crazy. It definitely changes everything. But the great thing about it is it's the most amazing platform. So my husband's adopted. He was did a stint in foster care before he was adopted.
Same. I did the exact
You
same
did that too, Clint?
Exact same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was in foster care first two or 3 years. I'm actually not sure.
Wow.
At least 2.
Wow. You know what? It's a blessing to be adopted.
Yeah.
And because of that, are you working with Utah foster care at all?
Sometimes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I have a table. You can have it, you and your wife should come. I have extra seats. But because I guess there's an event coming up, and we just found out I'm going to be in Connecticut and New York, so I can't go.
Yeah.
But the platform has been so good because we launched during COVID. And my boys started their line Fresh Wolf men's grooming products because I'm all about be able to pay for your own life.
Sure.
I'm not going to fund you. John's not going to fund you, my husband. So I'm you kids have to have a project. And they pitched us. So they have Fresh Wolf, which we were I want to do something philanthropic with it too. And the boys were emphatic about giving back to foster care.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so we buy one, give one, a 2-in-1 to boys in foster care because a lot of times boys are forgotten.
Yeah.
So for us, it's been amazing to have the platform. And during COVID, Utah foster care almost lost all their funding. And so they were worried about it. Jack, who was only 15 at the time, went in and met with all of the heads of Utah foster care.
What
Nikki
a baller.
McKay, Amanda, yeah. But he was so emotional because when he was little, that movie Meet the Robinsons? So he would watch it and cry and be like, why did they give up my daddy?
Yeah.
How much did they pay for him? Why didn't they want him? And do your kids ever ask you those questions?
Yeah. But I spent most of my childhood just asking myself those questions.
Oh.
How does John feel about it? What's his experience?
John's a Scorpio and internalizes everything. And I actually found his bio mom and almost sent him over the edge. I had him do a DNA test, and within literally the day it came back, we've had his brother. I'm Jewish by heritage, so John married a Jewish girl. His half biological brother, because they share the same mother, not the same father. His biological brother married a Jewish girl, and her parents gave him a DNA test for Christmas 6 months prior to John taking it. So he linked immediately, and then that caused some problems because they didn't know John existed, and there was 5 other children. But she's very kind, but it's not his mother. He considers his mom his adoptive mom.
Sure.
But it's still traumatic. Literally, I'm I think I pushed John to the edge with that because he never had a desire to find out.
Yeah.
And I think he internalized everything. He did tell me that when he was 8, he remembered getting in trouble and was like, oh my gosh, they're going to give me away. And I think it put him on this journey of nothing's ever good enough. He's always pushing himself and everything to be better. Are you like that, Clint?
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's a lot of pressure.
That sounds
on a kid.
familiar, actually.
But you've thrived and arrived, and now you have your own kids.
Yeah, that's cool though that your kids did that and they chose that as the thing that they wanted to give back to.
Yeah, foster care is a huge, huge deal, and we're super passionate about it. And it was even hard to find an organization to give to because, we thought, the Christmas house. And then, the government kind of says where you can do things and how you can do things. And there's a restaurant by us in Draper called Cultivate, and it's owned by the gentleman who's the husband of Nikki McKay, who runs Utah foster care.
Yeah.
So it was weird how it all transpired. Like John was talking to Matt about our tequila, and then he's like, well, my wife's in foster care, because he understood that our boys owned this like Fresh Wolf brand that gives back. And so he connected us, and it was like instant, like, oh my gosh, this is what's meant to be. This is what was meant to happen. Super little Jewish word for you, kismet. So it was really good. But it's an amazing thing to be a foster kid and to turn out like amazing. And there are so many of you that do. So I think it's like, tell your story, Clint.
That's incredible. Well,
and make sure you're at this event 2 weeks. I'll get you seats for sure.
Count me in. I want to talk to you about the show itself, because I don't know a lot about like reality TV or Real Housewives or anything like that. Like, first time I ever watched it is like your show. I know it's been around for years, but what is it like shooting it? And how authentic is this? Is this like real? Are you guys like, do you guys really get mad at each other?
Yeah, it's real.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's, I think that your circumstances create naturally tensions, but it's all real. And like, since we launched like season 1, I think we ended up with 13 episodes, and season 2 we were at 25. So we were literally airing for almost half a year. It's crazy for a season 2 show, but it is very real. It's really unique for Utah, because our franchise touches a lot on the religion, which is super, it's driven the culture here for a long time. I think it's less now for sure, and I think things have definitely changed a lot. But our franchise is unique. People think that we spend like 4 months with cameras on us 24/7. Like, I'll have people come in town and say, oh, can I come over? Are you filming? And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. But it's like, like you're constantly talking to, we each have a producer, and we talk through what's going on in our lives with that producer and what's going on with the other girls on the cast. And that's basically how the story all transpires. And this season, Clint, if you see, the drama's so different than it has been. I mean, somebody went to prison.
Yeah.
And so this year it's much lighter, not as dark, but it's still super intense. Like,
are they following her? Is she still like on the show?
No, she's done.
Wouldn't that be incredible if they were like, I mean, I don't know how much you want to talk
I'm
about.
done.
How funny would it be to be like the camera crews follow like every day in prison? That'd be so funny.
It would be, I think, boring. And I think as much as we want to glamorize camps, I don't think they're that fun. I mean, you're in a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
But I guess it would make it easy to figure out what you're going to wear that day.
What was that like going through that? That was a huge controversy.
It was huge. And I think, it's such a hard thing, because Jen and I had one dynamic off camera, and what she brought to camera was super different. And I don't like to talk negatively about people. I just wasn't raised that way. And I know I'm on a show where it's like bitch about everybody, but but I really don't like to. But I think with her, I genuinely cared about her.
Yeah.
And, in some regards, 2 and 2 added up to 4. In other regards, it didn't add up to 4. And I think after season 1, I like to help people. I'm a builder. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So seeing that she didn't have anything of substance, I was literally offering her like, hey, let me create something for you.
Yeah.
I can brand it, market it, create it, like get you a consumer good prepared. And luckily that didn't ever transpire, because I'm glad I don't have connections. I mean, we run businesses very differently than Jen did, but it would still cause, a problem. But I think with her, I believe in due process. So you didn't want to assume she was guilty, but when things just keep getting presented to you, you questioned it. But I'm like, you also believe in due process. And I think after what our country went through, like we need to be really cognizant that we have to presume people are innocent and prove them guilty. So with Jen, I mean, once she admitted guilt and the evidence was stacked against her, I was like, okay. But I mean, I severed ties with Jen prior to that, because it was too tumultuous of a friendship, and it was one-sided. Like, I was being her friend, and then it was like not reciprocated. But
that's so fun.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel pressure, because the show is what it is, to like initiate controversy or drama or anything like that?
I've never faked anything on the show. Like, if you see me upset, I'm genuinely upset. And like, I can't hide things. Like, even walking up your stairs, I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to pass out. I'm out of shape. Like, I just can't fake things. And it's weird when people fake things. the truth always comes out.
Yeah.
And you will see that, like, if you lie, you will be proven to be a liar. And it's only a matter of time. So I think if you go on a show and you have a sordid past, or you can't get away from anything, and that's the truth of the matter. And if you're a bad person, the world will see you as a bad person. Everyone thinks that they edit you a certain way. It's not the way you're edited. Like, if you see something happening on the show that's actually happening, I had a hot mic moment. I'm human. I ranted.
Sure.
Season 2, I was so frustrated, and I was like, rather than sit at the dinner table and blow up at everyone, I was like, oh, it's a great idea to go in my room. I had my mic off. My mic was not on. Threw it out the door. And, unfortunately, they had a boom outside. And I might have called someone a garbage whore, and a lot of other things. But, we're all human, and we all act like humans. So you're going to see, and there's a couple people that I think have faked things for the show.
Sure.
And it always comes out. Because you'll say something 2 years before that you forgot, and then it's recalled again. So it's best to just be yourself, be honest. And
Well, you have like fans, like huge fans.
yeah. And
What's that like?
I didn't really realize, we'll be out, and I realize it more when I'm on the East Coast because people are much more vocal out there. Like, you'll be walking by Central Park and someone's like, Barlow, I love you. But it's a cool feeling to have people that understand you and relate to you because they're fans, because I think they see a part of them in you. What shocks me is how young the fans are. Like, my demographic is like 25 to 34. And like, I just got tagged in a picture. You can see it on my Instagram story where the girl looks just like me, but she's like 25. And but I'm like, oh my gosh, I love your style. Like, she's like, I'm being Lisa Barlow today. And I didn't really realize how big the fan base was until I was at BravoCon at the Javits Center. I had a meet and greet, and I walk in, and it's like, Lisa, the whole room.
Yeah,
and it's
huge.
thousands of people from the front to the back. They literally, the security's like, you have to leave when you're done because it's creating a hazard, because people were pushing forward. But it's like such an amazing experience to know that people can be inspired by you and relate to you. And I'm a super confident person. It's just the way we were raised. Our parents had us really commit to being good people. And the inside's more important than the outside. What you're able to create is more important than how pretty you could ever look. And so I think when you're raised that way, I see things and I know that my actions have impact for good or bad. So I think it really holds you and yourself super accountable.
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to be as a person? And like, what kind of mom do I want to be on TV? What kind of business owner do I want to be?
Yeah.
And I really make good decisions based on my core.
Yeah. Who have you met from the show that surprised you, or that's been like, wow, that was really interesting?
You mean on my cast or extraneous?
Just generally, like through the show, or because of the show, or because of who you are now.
I think that the craziest thing since I've been on the show is when Ray Fiennes, Voldemort,
Oh yeah.
quotes my hot mic moment on Watch What Happens Live. I was cringing and elated at the same time because I'm like, it's so iconic that Ray Fiennes is legit saying my rant on a public forum. So I think that's kind of crazy. And it's crazy who watches the show, the celebrities that watch the show. It's kind of crazy. But I think all of it overall, you're part of this huge family. And it's like being on an NBA team to be a housewife. So many people want to be on it, but it's a few that are chosen from each market. And, it's a big responsibility. It's a lot.
What was the process like to choose who the other housewives were?
Well, this franchise started with me, and then Meredith Marks, who I was friends with prior to the show for 8 years prior. We always said 10, but we went down and we're like, no, it was really only 8 years. But I'm being factual now. And then I recommended Heather Gay because my girlfriend, I set up with her husband. They ended up getting married. I lied to my friend Angela and my friend Chad. And I'm like, Angela likes you, Chad. Chad, Angela likes you. They ended up dating and getting married. So she was friends with Heather, and she introduced me to Heather. And I'm like, Heather's so funny. And I'm like, she would be great for TV. And I had told her, if I ever get a TV show, because I could feel it coming, like I'm going to for sure recommend you. And then that's how the cast kind of started. And then just referral, they go down the rabbit hole and find people.
Yeah.
And I referred like 100 people. Like
Yeah.
my list was long.
Do you
But
feel
that's how
like
they
a
found it.
responsibility to Utah and how Utah's viewed in all this? Or are you just like
100%.
let it go as it goes?
No, and I think like what you're doing, Clint, is huge. You know, you and I have talked about other businesses extraneous from our
Yeah.
liquor brands. Tech is huge. And I think a lot of people still think about Silicon Valley, but it's in the slopes.
Yeah.
The valley's gone. Like,
done.
or like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like everybody's in the slopes. I think it's my job to show Utah in the best light. I always say the city is the last star of the show because the surroundings are so beautiful. And I also think being in the hospitality industry, being in the wine and spirit space, I like to showcase people. Everybody that's ever done anything nice for me, I want to return the favor back
Yeah.
to them in any capacity I can, like where we film, how we film, what my favorite places to go are, who my favorite brands are here. I mean, and like even with Utah Foster Care, I think it's helped them a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd have to ask Nikki, but I feel like it's helped them a lot because we've been able to showcase foster care on the show. And there's other housewives and other franchises that have actually been in foster care. So I think it
Yeah.
shines a light on like, hey, you know, that's hard. A lot of people don't realize how emotional that is, but that's that's something innately I do. It's not like it's
Yeah.
forced. It's something natural for me is to like help promote and encourage other people. And, you know, Cameron Williams was someone, he's passed,
Yeah.
but his
Love
family,
Cameron.
his family's so impressive. His mother, his father, his twin sister, Morgan, who's like
Who's just incredible.
rock star. And I feel like Cam was like a little angel that connected me to so many people. And like even Morgan, I'm just like, I want to do everything I can to help her. And like my friend Tanisha Brown, who runs Impact Magazine, but it gives you a platform to really showcase
I think
amazing
you introduced
people.
me to Tanisha.
Yes, I did.
I was
And
going to say.
she's amazing too.
Yeah.
And she was meant to be here. She was meant to be a part of my life. I consider her a great friend. But I think through Cameron, so many great, beautiful things
Yeah.
transpired. And for me, it's organic because I'm like, I'm already working with them. I'm already doing things with them. You know, our Black Chamber is really great here too. So you want to showcase how diverse Utah's becoming, how unique it is. Our Latin population's ridiculously huge. I was a partner in a Latin energy drink way before Housewives, after Vita. And, you know, there's thousands of Latin markets from Provo to Salt Lake City. And I think that we can show how diverse Utah has become and how insanely cool it is. I mean, when you look at from oil to tech companies, how many people are thriving, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
You did you shot at Walters, right?
Yes.
That was part of it.
Yeah.
And that was when Walter was still alive, right?
Yeah, when Walter was still alive.
Yeah.
We've
Well-
been friends with Walter forever. We're the only tequila they've ever carried.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, how great was Walter? I mean, let's just talk about him for a
He's
second.
iconic.
He's the greatest.
I mean, you would go in there and think like, it's 4 of us for dinner and walk out and it's like, it's $4,000. Like, and because he would just be like so charismatic about try this, have this. He was the ultimate showman. Like, I mean, he's a star in Salt Lake City. He's greatly missed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How has it been for Vita and other brands that you have?
You know, for Vita, it's been great because we've always been nationwide and we sell in 5 markets outside of the United States. So that's always been great for us. During COVID, the supply chain was extremely broken and it was hard to get glass and other things. So I think now we're starting, I mean, we had enough glass to like hit what we would normally project.
Sure.
But I think that it's definitely great because you have a platform where you can explain like, hey, I had this way before. I've never been a housewife in my life before the show. Like, I'm a working mom. I don't cook, never made eggs. Like, I made stuff on a raclette grill because we tried it in Vail and it was amazing. You should get one. Amazon has them.
Interesting.
Literally, your kids could be gourmet chefs. You can go to Harmon's, get pre-cut Wagyu beef.
Oh, I think you sent me this
Yes.
before, actually.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
in the herb butter and like make this amazing meal in 5 minutes. It takes like 5 minutes to cook on a raclette grill. It's like, I think it's French or Swiss based. I don't know, one of those two. But
That's sweet.
it's yeah, it's cool.
How do you have the energy to do everything that you do? I'm always like blown away by it.
I'm like this 24/7.
I know you are.
I'm
It's
like, blah, blah,
crazy.
blah. Yeah, but I think I've got my mom's energy level. But my dad
Yeah.
was just here. He just turned 70. And he's a young 70. Like my kids are like, Grandpa's not 70. I'm like, Grandpa's 70. But I came from high energy people.
Yeah.
And I love creating. It fuels me. It's my fire. Like, I love
Yeah.
it.
How long will Housewives go on? As long as you want?
For me,
Yeah.
I think I mean, I love doing it. I know some people, if anyone says they hate it, they're lying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, unless you're like, I don't know.
It's got to be way fun.
Yeah, it's way fun. And I think it gives you cool experiences. Like I had never been to Bermuda before. I grew up in New York. I called my dad from Bermuda. I'm like, why weren't we in Bermuda like all the time? Because it's a 2-hour flight. But you get to see like cool things that you never would have. Like who thinks like, do you even know where Bermuda is? Because I didn't even know.
No, not really.
It's like, it's east of like North Carolina and Atlanta. And
Yeah.
it's just 2 hours south of New York, but out. And it is pink sand beaches, beautiful, bougie, amazing. John's in the liquor store grabbing Vita, and this guy's staring at the tequila, and he's like, is that a good one? And he's like, well, I'm biased because my wife and I own it, but it's great.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh my gosh, is your wife on Housewives? And the guy's like, yeah. And he goes, they just filmed at my dad's restaurant, Blue. I just moved here from Atlanta. This is how small our world is.
Yeah.
This guy just moves from Atlanta to Salt Lake in the liquor store. And 2 weeks prior, we're with his dad at his restaurant in Bermuda. I mean, that's how small your world becomes. It's kind of crazy. So.
Didn't we almost film at Silicon Slopes Summit once?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, why did we do
need
that?
to do that.
Well, I mean, it's
I
next
don't
month.
know.
Come do it.
Yeah, well, we're not filming right now. We're airing. We start airing in September.
Oh,
but
okay.
you know what? Let's make sure we do something because we've got so many amazing people in tech here.
Yeah.
And everything's tech-based now. If you're not,
I think that was
you're
the
behind.
Zuckerberg year we
Oh
were
my
going to do
gosh.
it. That would have been
Yeah,
fun.
I know. I can't believe you got him here. Like, Clint, you're amazing. Like, who you've had come speak is unbelievable.
No, it's
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So what is promotion like as you get ready? So next month you release the next season. What is that like? I mean, I'm sure you're going on like press junkets. Is that what they call it?
Well,
Things like
so it starts with like press in New York City. So in the next couple of weeks, like we'll be in New York City and I'll be doing like back-to-back 2 days of complete interviews with every outlet.
Is that where you go to like a hotel and you're just like people come in and out?
Yeah, sometimes it's easy in New York because I can go to like the NBC
Oh, I
building
see. Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
just have people come in and out.
That's the great thing about New York.
yeah,
is
that's
how
the
easy it is to
best
get around.
part of New York. It's everything's available.
Yeah.
So you just go to like, I'll go to the NBC building and just like, like do press all day. And sometimes they're just like, here's a driver. You're going to 8 different places today.
Wow.
So it's crazy, but I love it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. What about other businesses and other brands? And how do you decide like, hey, I'm going to get into tequila or I'm going to getting to the event business and doing, Sundance parties and like, how do you decide what you work on? Particularly now that you're Lisa Barlow, the famous person, I'm sure you get offers to do all sorts of things.
It's crazy, but we do. And I'm very selective. I think when you're in a business, you have to be an expert in what you do. So my mom is completely creative and my mom's a finance person too. So she's great with numbers, but her creative side was amazing. And my dad is like the straight up, like he can build anything, fix anything. He developed a lot in New York, but we grew up with our parents. Our kids were kids with kids. Mm-hmm. So I learned to be very self-sufficient, not intentionally, but because like you're driven by what you see. And my parents were both driven. So when we launched our brand Vita in 2007, we started it in 2003. John was actually importing hot sauce from Mexico and a really great Mexican wine. Mexico has some brilliant wines.
Yeah.
And he was down in Mexico and he got approached by a group, and it's now our distilling partner, but they wanted us to bring their tequila because it's really hard to market in the United States. And at that time, 2003, there's less than 400 brands of tequila in the United States.
Right.
Nobody liked tequila because people think when I go to Mexico, oh, I love the tequila. It's so much better there. It's not. It's a lower proof, so you get more of the agave. It's in the 70s where we're 80 to over 100 on some brands. Mm-hmm. And so John was like, Lisa, I got approached. We were literally dating and like when this first started. And then by the time we like launched the brand, like we got married in 2003 and we were already business partners. Like his checkbook was mine. Like mine was not his. But like we were fortunate because we had some extra discretionary cash and we were able to go into it because it's expensive to get into liquor.
Yeah.
We were mentored by a friend in New York who was the CFO of the second largest wholesaler of wine and spirits in the country. Daily, this is what you need to do. This is important. Create a pitch deck. My pitch deck was 300 pages long to be with the second largest wholesaler of wine and spirits in the country. And he said no deck had ever been better. He's like, you thought of everything. It was insane. So I feel like we went in knowing a lot, understanding what the business is, and it's still so much bigger than us, but it's still mom and pop, you know. And in a weird way, liquor's like lots of billion-dollar brands, but it's still mom and pop.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we got into Vita. And we launched with huge people. Some of them I can't say because they have their own liquor brands now, but I'm talking AA listers for 10 days straight. Flew out our distributors. We spent 7 figures entertaining the first week in launching. And then after that, I was like, you know what? Everything we paid people to do, I can do for us.
Yeah.
So that's how Lux Marketing was born, is I'm like frugal, except for with my clothes. And I was like, we have to have something to support the brand that we have more control over, because it doesn't make sense to pay people to do what we can do. And I had a sick Rolodex, so we ended up getting into parties with other networks where we were the primary like hosted product. And then we started creating our own events, and we've done amazing, huge events. We have portable lounges, and we like to do a great job when we do it. We want it to be, the experience has to be luxury because our products are luxury.
Yeah.
And then the seltzer, you know, it's easy to add on other alcohol brands. Well, we during COVID, we decided like we have a product that's made in a different country, and we can't go there right now. And we trust our team. Our team's amazing. We make beautiful, I would venture to say I make the best tequila in the world. Like I know I make beautiful products. And we were experts in it, and we partnered with experts. And so during that, we're like, we need a product that's made in our proximity. So we went to a local brewer and said, hey, is there a possibility that you can make a seltzer for us, because we really want to be in a seltzer? And so from start to beginning, we hired a flavor chemist so they can break down the flavor profile of Vita tequila, because it can't have actual tequila in it. If you want a broader base and not just be in liquor stores, so you can be in all gas stations, which we're in Mavericks. Like we are in every chain here in Utah. We just got accepted into Target with Blue Jay Hard Seltzer. But it made sense. So I think it's great to do a lot of things, but they have to complement each other.
Yeah.
And our seltzer is amazing. Like it's so good. Blue Jay Hard Seltzer. Blue Jay came about because we were trying to think of a name, and our youngest son, Henry, who was 9 at the time, was like, Mom, it should be called this and this and this. And we mocked up the bottles, went to get a trademark. We couldn't get the trademark. And I'm like, what are we going to name this seltzer? And it has to be, when we name something, it has to be significant. Like Vita means life in Spanish. And at the time, there was this brand called Patron that was like spending $25 million on just print advertising alone, and like everywhere. And I'm like, Patron means master. So I was like, what takes out the master? Life. You have no control. So we're going to name our brand Vita, because that's better than master.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then with Blue Jay, excuse me.
No.
We were like, I tell my kids this story all the time in the car. When I'm taking them to school, I always say, remember to be a Blue Jay, because that means be loud. Because when I was in 3rd grade, I'll never forget it, Mrs. Cutting was my teacher, and there were reading groups based on birds. So cardinals meant you couldn't read, and Blue Jay meant you were an exceptional reader. And she assigned me to cardinals. And I think it was because I was like the chatty Cathy of Kathy of my class and always in trouble. But I literally remember being so angry, because I was smart enough to know that, like, you don't think I'm smart. And it frustrated me. It made me so mad. My brother has a photographic memory and like brilliant, and he's a year older than me. So everyone loves Brian. Everyone's like, Lisa's annoying. And so I literally remember like shooting my hand up, and I'm like, I'm not a cardinal, I'm a Blue Jay. And like had the confidence to do that in 3rd grade. And she literally was mean and said, okay, read this in front of the whole class. And it was like a grown-up book. And I read it with ease, and she's like, you're a Blue Jay. But she was not wanting me to be a Blue Jay. And I remember feeling so satisfied that I got to move from this table to this one and be with my friend who's I'm still friends with, James Opelka. He's in the wine and spirits business too. He just sold his wine portfolio to the Johnson & Johnson family.
Oh, wow.
I guess they're in wine. And he still runs it. And he has a beautiful, the Albert Bachot brands here in Utah that are from France. He runs them.
Yeah. How have you maintained such a strong relationship? I mean, you've been married since 2003.
With John?
Yeah, with John. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
You know, marriage is hard. So like nobody's marriage is easy. So when we got married, I think the first 4 years of our marriage were definitely the hardest, because you have 2 insanely strong personalities trying to come together. And I've always been like, I can do everything for myself, because I'm one of 6 kids, and you learn to be super independent. And so I think I was probably the worst wife the first 4 years. Like for a fact, like I know for a fact, like, and I was still getting to understand how he is, who he is, what he's capable of doing. And I'm so used to being like, I can do everything myself. So it's hard to have somebody help me. But we committed to each other. Like after the first 4 years, like I was like, we're not going to make it. And I come from divorce. Like everybody in my family's divorced. Like nobody's married. All my siblings, my brother and I out of 6 are the only 2 married. All my aunts and uncles are divorced, and they never remarry. They just stay divorced. And my parents are divorced. My parents divorced like 11 years ago. So I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, it's all about me. And then when I started to be like, I'm a better team player than an independent solo person, then I think it started to like do that. And like we started building brands together, and you start relying on each other in different ways. And we're around each other 24/7. Like, so we like live together, we work together. You know, when I'm not filming, that's probably the most space we have.
Yeah.
But we love it. And it's a commitment every single day to be like a good partner for your partner.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to a point probably like 3 years ago where I'm like, I don't want to fight with you anymore. It's like we only have so many summers left. I've got like 10 good ones left in a bikini. And like after that, like, I'm like, it's not going to work for me anymore. So I'm like, I want to enjoy our time. So I think you start to shift your priorities and less pressure because we've been in business together for a long time. And then, you know, like I know how to push his buttons. Henry, the other day I started playing a song and Henry goes, you know, that's going to make Dad mad. And I'm like, yep. But even he knows, you know, what's going to push each other's buttons in. But like, I think it's a commitment. Like, I don't want to fight with this person. I don't want to waste time because we don't have that much of it. Like really. But I mean, it's not everybody finds their person the right time around. I'm John's second wife. So obviously the first time didn't work and I'm glad, but it's a lot, you know,
I'm sure
a lot. And he has to take a back seat to me a lot too, which I think is hard because he's an amazing public speaker. He's amazingly talented, smarter than I am. But I think like, because I'm louder, I get more attention, but I'm like, he's, you know, the brains behind a lot of things too.
What advice would you have for entrepreneurs watching this?
I think it is so important when you start a business to be an expert in your industry. First of all, you need to know the space you're going into. When we started Tequila, like I went to BYU, I'm a convert to the Mormon faith or the LDS faith. And so I grew up around social alcoholics, but I didn't drink because, and my dad hates when I say that. My parents are like great people and responsible and amazing. But like all my relatives, it was like every party, you're like, do I eat that fruit? Like 7th grade, I'm like eating all this fruit. And I'm like, oh, there's rum in there. I'm like, probably wasted in 7th grade, not knowingly, but it was like a part of our culture and like how we grew up. So I think that like I didn't drink because it was so available, you don't want it. And then we joined the Mormon faith and like, so then I'm like, now I'm like not supposed to drink, but it wasn't like a thing for me because it was never off limits.
Sure.
And so when we got into that, like it's a hard business and you have to be an expert. We had to know what we were creating, who we were up against, how we could stretch our money, how we could get distributors, how we could expand the brand nationally, internationally. And you need to surround yourself with smart people. Know your space, be an expert in it. I have the most amazing friend group. You know this, Clint.
Oh, yeah.
And they are all brilliant and way smarter than me. When I'm around Todd and Andy Peterson, I always say, thanks for showing me there's more. I like constantly surround yourself with people that can show you there's more, that support you. One other thing is, when you're building a brand, don't take money from anyone unless they're a good fit for your brand, because you don't want to be in business with people that are committed to destroying you. A good deal is one that's good for both parties. And if you're taking money from someone, you're in bed with them now. These are your partners. And if their goals aren't aligned and they're not a good fit for you, and if they don't get their money legally, say no, because it's way better to like go the shoestring route than to take money from a bad person. And that's going to cause you more problems in the future. Lawyer up. Make sure you do everything right from the beginning. You know, the funny thing is with Vita, when we started looking through all of our government filings, my attorney said, did you file this initial filing with the government? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And he's like, you did an amazing job. But I read about it. I knew what I was doing. And I was smart enough to then have a lawyer look it over. So I think just make sure like you're in business with the right people. You understand your space. You understand how to market your product. If it's a consumer good or if it's like a tech thing, surround yourself with the great people. And I think one thing is never say no to any job. I found that like when I own a business, so like Lux Marketing is mine alone and John has things that are his alone and then the alcohol brands we own together. with my marketing company, if my team's up at 1 a.m, I'm up at 1 a.m. If my team's up at 4, I'm up at 4. If trash needs to be taken out, I can afford to pay someone to take the trash out. I'm still capable and still take my trash out.
Yeah.
And I think when you stop doing things for yourself, you literally forget how to do things, and then you're relying on everybody else for things that you should know how to do yourself.
Yeah.
And one example is that when I first moved back to Utah, I took a job at Jeff Curl's wife at the time was Rachel Curl. And she was working at Novell, and she was moving, so I took her job. She was moving to help Jeff with his projects. And at Novell, like, I mean, we're talking like the .com was in the 88, 89, 90s. And so this is in the 90s, mid 90s. And I didn't know what I was doing. Like computers back then, it's like, I can't code, so I don't even know how to use this.
Yeah.
But I had to teach myself Novell's amazing, which nobody got to know because they're bad at marketing, in some capacities, group-wise email.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will be an expert at group-wise in every tool this company's selling. And I was so good at it. Like I was telling other people, like, this is how you use it. This is what you do. And I think when you learn to take responsibility for everything and you know how to do what you expect other people to do, you thrive.
Yeah. Finally, how do you think about the
It's a
Lisa
long answer.
Barlow brand now?
You know,
Because you're a brand.
oh my gosh, you know, it's funny because I just started teaching my kids about that. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, you're a brand and your brand is part of you.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, Clint. Like
Yeah.
I am, you know, I'm the exact same. I don't change.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, I think it's cool that I have access to more, and it takes everything we've created and takes it to the next level. When I'm with our friends, you know, because we share a lot of mutual friends, like I'm still the same person, but it's crazy what you can do when you have the platform that we have. And I think part of being on the show, it's like utilizing it
Yeah.
and doing it in a smart way that's good for you. But it's crazy. It's just so surreal still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like we're going into season 4 in a few weeks, and I think it's our best season ever. And it's exciting. And I feel like Bravo's been really good to me too. Like whenever I'm doing something with my brand, they're super supportive of it. And I think I have a great relationship with our production company and the
Yeah.
overall network. But it's cool. It's a good brand. I mean, the craziest thing was I think it really hit me at BravoCon last year to walk in a room with thousands of people and
Everybody
they're
just chanting your
my
name.
dad, I know John made a video of it and we sent it to my dad and he's like, I always knew you were going to do great things, but he's like, this is just cool. You know what I mean? And he won't watch the show. It was on when he was here 2 weeks ago when I'm in this Fendi outfit and it's low cut and I'm like, don't look, Dad, don't look. And he's like, turn it off.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was like the first thing when the show aired. My mom's like, I hope you're dressing modestly. And I'm like, Mom, I'm dressing well. She taught me.
That's
But,
incredible.
yeah,
Well,
but thanks so much for your time, Clint.
Of
Like, I
course.
appreciate our friendship.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it's so funny. I know where I was driving. I was going down the mountain to get on the freeway on the phone with you after
Yeah.
the show was announced.
oh, that was so much fun. It
Yeah.
was so exciting.
Yeah, and thanks for always being so supportive of
course.
everything we're doing too, and a great friend.
Of course, you're incredible, and congratulations on everything.
Thank
It's just
you.
been amazing to watch.
It's
And you're
crazy.
like this enormous superstar now. You're like the famous person in the friend group. It's
I
unbelievable.
think the funny thing is when people quote me, like I call Henry Baby Gorgeous, and like now it's like Baby Gorgeous. I'm like, I'll start with water, then I'll advance, and people are like, I'm advancing. That's the crazy part, you know. Garbage whores
incredible.
on T-shirts and mugs.
Thanks, my friend.
Yeah,
Good
thank you,
seeing
Clint. Thank you.
Appreciate it.